The Nightster officially gets more special, with a capital S. In a nutshell, here's your entry-level Sportster without the name. Twin shocks, a lower ride height and a shorter wheelbase mean this is your point of entry to Harley Land. The 2023 Nightster Special builds on the impact the Sportster S and Sportster Nightster made a year or two ago. The shock of the new 60-degree 975 cubic centimeters liquid-cooled V-twin engine has worn off, but it's worth repeating, it's still a big deal. Officially it's called the Revolution Max 975T, unofficially it's basically a rebirth of Milwaukee's Soul. Hydraulic valve lifters acclaimed 90 horsepower at 500 RPM and 70 pound-feet of torque at 5000 RPM add up to a great value prop for newcomers. A pillion seat is now standard, plus the 4-inch speedo is now a TFT, navigated by hand controls. As such, it displays infotainment options available when paired with a Bluetooth-equipped phone and headset. It goes without saying navigation is made possible via the HD app and voice instructions. Official color names haven't been released, so let's say there are 4 color schemes available. There's gloss black, matte black, a muted yellow, and a dark blue. Each is finished off by a yellow, orange and red striped badge design inspired by Harley's AMF era. Specifically, it evokes the classic 1976 peanut tank design. Tough year for Harley, but fine year for America. On paper it should be easy to introduce exciting or new tech to new riders. Without preconceptions based on previously owned bikes, it's ground zero for future forward design concepts. Get past the dearth of chrome and conspicuous vibration, and they'll ride one of the better products the Bar and Shield has put out in the last 15 years. Sales figures from the second-gen Nightster will show whether buyers agree. The new Nightster is a modern take on the iconic Harley Davidson Sportster that really is the bike that HD fans cried about the most when it departed the range a short while back. It wasn't the biggest, baddest, or fastest bike Harley has ever built, but its positioning in the range, low cost, and archaic simplicity won it a literal army of fans. While the new Nightster draws its inspiration from the classic V-twins of old, beneath the skin it's all new and looking to take the fight to the modern middleweight naked market. It's a V-twin cruiser for those that like to look after themselves and the planet. At the heart of the new Harley is the new Revolution Max 975T engine. Like the Pan America, which uses the Revolution Max 1250, the new 975 cubic centimeters liquid-cooled V-twin is bang up to date and features VVT, power modes, a tuned airbox and more. It pumps out 88 brake horsepower at 500 RPM and 70 pound-feet of torque at 5000 RPM. The overall character of the 975T is that of a quick revving and eager little unit. It feels so much more like a European-built V-twin than any of the other V-twin cruisers in range. The low-end grunt is still there, it's just not quite as arm-wrenching as with bikes like the Softail Standard, for instance. The new Nightster is much happier to bask in an expansive mid-range spread of torque, which is much more at home on real roads, making real overtaking moves. The Nightster also revs like no other V-twin cruiser has before, and instead of slamming into the rev limiter at 4500 to 5000 RPM, powers on and only really runs out of steam just before the red line is hit. I'd say on the road it's a more appealing prospect to ride this than the larger and more powerful Sportster S. The Sportster S is a properly quick bike off the line and accelerates with brutal efficiency. But even with all the VVT and tech the engines share, the 975T still feels like the more rounded, easier to ride and tractable of the two units. Like its larger sibling the Sportster S, the new Nightster features an innovative new type of frame that uses the engine as a stressed member that the chassis components all bolt onto. The design helps to keep weight down to 221 kilograms ready to ride and importantly centralizes the mass of the bike. The suspension at both ends is provided by Showa, with non-adjustable dual bending valve forks that feature preload adjustability. On the road the Nightster feels nicely composed, and while the suspension isn't the most premium kit on the market, it's well set up for the size and weight of the machine and only feels flustered when you ask it to do things outside of its skill set. Braking at both ends is provided by Brembo, and as with the suspension, it's mid-spec kit from a top-spec manufacturer. Bite and feel at both ends is good, and for the most part, just 1 or 2 fingers working the front brake is all you'll need. The ABS is a fairly clumsy 2-channel system that sometimes causes an audible chirp from the front tire, but it should be enough to prevent any spills should you need to call upon it. The biggest surprise to come from the Nightster launch was in the way this entry-level bike gets down the road. It's a genuinely entertaining thing to ride. It feels light and direct, changing direction more like a European middleweight naked than anything else from across the pond. Fast left to right corners are dispatched with eye-opening efficiency, and thanks to the nicely set up suspension it all feels very composed and well behaved. Most fast corners you come up against will be accompanied by a sea of sparks as the pegs meet the road, and if you are a rider that enjoys a more spirited pace you might want to invest in some spares. Overall, the handling and ability of the bike on a twisty road is a bit of a revelation, really elevating the machine from bike night show pony to genuinely entertaining and capable B-road machine.